Hey, Tom here from the Run Testers with a review of the latest kit that you might want to know about to make your running a little bit more enjoyable. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to click subscribe and get notifications about all the new reviews we've got, from the latest road and trail shoes to all the latest watches and headphones out at the moment. Today's review, I'm going to be taking a look at two shoes: the New Balance Fresh Foam 1080 V11 and the Brooks Glycerin 19. Let's see what I think of these two shoes. So if you're a runner like me who likes heavily cushioned shoes for your daily training miles, both of these options will probably crop up quite a bit in your research. So what I'm going to do today is just take a quick look at both of these shoes, find out what they're meant to do, and look at the differences between them to make sure that when you buy a new pair of daily cushioned shoes, you're getting the right one. But before we do that, let's take a look at the stats of both of these shoes. The Brooks Glycerin 19 is going to cost you £140 or $150. It weighed in for me at 290 grams or 10.2 ounces in a size 8. For women, it's 255 grams or 9 ounces. The drop is 10 millimeters. The New Balance Fresh Foam 1080 V11 is going to cost you £135 or $149.99. It weighs in at 256 grams, which is 9 ounces in a size 8 for men. For women, it's 230 grams and that's 8.1 ounces. The heel toe drop for that shoe is 8 millimeters. So both of these shoe lines have been around for quite a long time now, and they've become really popular with people looking for really heavily cushioned trainers for daily running, basically. And although they seem similar in what they're delivering, they're actually slightly different, and depending on what type of runner you are, one of these shoes is probably going to deliver better for what you're actually looking for. So I've been a massive fan of both of these shoe lines for a long time now. I've already done about 60k in both of these versions, but in the previous iterations of both of these shoes, I did a lot more mileage, and both of them are fantastic shoes if you're looking for cushioned options, but they are slightly different in how they deliver and how I would use them for running. The Brooks Glycerin 19 uses a DNA Loft midsole that runs across the whole of the shoe, which is a very soft midsole. It just feels very comfortable, very cushioned, and just deadens the impact as you're running. The New Balance Fresh Foam 1080 V11s uses Fresh Foam X as a midsole material. Again, runs the whole length of the shoe and it's a very comfy, soft, enjoyable foam to run in. The upper from the Glycerin 19 uses this mesh design, which is quite similar to what you'd probably find in a lot of more conventional running shoes. There's also a lot of cushioning especially around the collar section, and there's a reinforced heel block for stability and support. The New Balance Fresh Foam 1080 V11 has this sort of sock liner upper, which is feels a lot thinner than what you get in the Glycerin 19. It's almost like putting on a sock when you put your foot in it. It does hug it quite a lot. At the back of the shoe, there is very little cushioning around the whole of the collar, especially in comparison to the Glycerin 19. It's a lot thinner. There's not much here at all. It also has this sort of elf heel block here, which is also on the previous shoe, which is designed to help you pull it on and off quicker. And it's a bit of reinforcement in this heel, and it does extend a bit. So the idea here is that because you've got this extended section here, your foot can really fit into it nicely and it will cradle it. The outsole for both of the shoes is actually very similar. The amount of rubber that you can see across both of those shoes is almost identical, with the same level of exposed midsole material. Maybe a little bit more on the New Balance there, but yeah, a similar level of outsole rubber on both of these shoes. The fit for me in both of these shoes is true to size. Both fit me really well. I've never had any problems with either of these shoes. But what I would say is, and you can see this here, that the Glycerin 19 is just a bit longer than the Fresh Foam 1080, and you can kind of feel that when you're wearing the shoe, because there does seem to be a lot more room at the top of this shoe. It's not too much. I've never had a problem with it feeling too roomy, but it does have a noticeable amount of more space. You can splay your toes a bit more in this shoe, and it just feels a little bit more relaxed in terms of the fit at the top of the shoe. The 1080 V11 is a lot more restrictive with this sock liner design, and it's not uncomfortable, because the way that the sock liner works is that when you've got your foot in, my toe sometimes presses out of the side of it, but because it's sock material, it's not a problem. It just kind of pushes out, and the sock material pushes out with it. It doesn't. I never had any problems with blisters or any rubbing or anything from the shoe, but it is slightly more restrictive. It's not really a narrow shoe, but it is. There's less space in that toe box in the mid foot than in the Glycerin 19. So this is quite a difficult versus to do, because I'm a massive fan of both of these shoes. So it's not that I like one more than the other, it's more that I just have slight different uses for these two shoes, which you probably won't have the opportunity to do, because you wouldn't need both of these shoes if you were planning to add a new cushion shoe to your collection. So the reason that I use both of these shoes is largely for those daily training miles where I just want to go out. I'm not entirely sure how fast I'm going to go, but I just want it to be comfortable. I want to deaden the impact as I go out, and I just want to have a nice time, really. But what I would say is that both of the shoes aren't exactly the same when it comes to that. The Glycerin 19 for me is the most cushioned option. It feels softer. It feels more comfortable when you're running in it. And I'd probably say this is more like towards the recovery side of the shoe spectrum, or the long distance side, where you're looking for a really comfortable, enjoyable ride, and you're definitely not going to go too fast. I find I can't run very fast in this shoe comfortably. You can pick up the pace a bit with it, but it just doesn't feel like that's what it's designed for. The Fresh Foam 1080 V11, it's not as soft as the Glycerin 19. It does feel a bit more responsive, and I think it's probably more conducive to running at a more versatile pace, so you can go a bit faster over long distances as well. So I'd probably say that this is a good option if you're looking to go running and do long distance running, but you're probably training for something, you want to go a bit faster. Glycerin 19 I probably wouldn't use if I was training for anything at speed, but I really enjoy doing long distances of these where the speed doesn't matter, and I just want comfort over that distance. The comfort of the Glycerin 19 massively not only comes from the midsole, but from all of this extra padding around the shoe, which is a lovely plush feeling when you wear it, and it's just so comfortable. There's this stepping comfort you get from this shoe from day one, and it's just really nice, and I've never had any issues with it at all. It's probably the most comfortable shoe I actually own. The 1080 V11 for me, it's a very comfortable shoe. I really enjoy wearing this for most of my runs, but I would say that it doesn't feel as plush or as comfortable as the Glycerin 19. It just doesn't feel like it's cradling your foot in the same way, and every step is just lovely soft cushioning. But it's more versatile, so what you lose in that sort of plush comfort, you get in a bit more speed and a bit more responsiveness from the shoe. I think the Glycerin 19 is a bit more of a stable shoe. There feels like there's a lot more in this base section of the shoe to kind of hold your foot in place. It feels like it's firmly placing your feet on the ground every time. It's not a massive problem in the Fresh Foam. It just feels like there's a little bit less stability in this shoe. I wouldn't say it's an unstable shoe by any stretch of the imagination, but if you really want a lot of stability and you don't want an actual stability shoe, the Glycerin 19 does feel very firm, and you feel like your feet are just cradled and you're not going to be wobbling around. Whereas if you were a little bit unstable, you might struggle a bit with that in comparison. The drop in both the shoes is there's a 2mm difference. I've not really noticed any difference in those, but the Glycerin's got a 10mm drop and the 1080 V11's got an 8mm drop. I definitely don't think that's a noticeable difference, so I wouldn't use that as a gauge to choose between these two shoes. And I guess finally the outsole on the shoes. I think it's very good on both. I think with the Glycerin 19, there's a little bit more. It just feels a little bit better at gripping. That rubber it's a bit harder wearing than what you're getting on the Fresh Foam, and that goes for the whole of the outsole as well. You can see on the Fresh Foam here, it's rubbing away a bit on that exposed midsole section based on where I'm hitting my foot when I'm running. I've not seen any signs of wear on the Glycerin 19 at all. So I think that the Glycerin 19 just has a little bit more like strength and durability in it in comparison to the 1080 V11. So overall, I absolutely love both of these shoes. I think they're great options. I think you're not going to go wrong if you buy either of these shoes. You're going to be really happy with both of them. They've both seen many developments, updates over the past few years. Although I would say that the Fresh Foam 1080 V10, which is the previous version of this, and the Glycerin 18, which is the previous version of this, are both brilliant shoes. And I don't think there's a lot of differences between those shoes and these shoes. So if you're conscious of budget and you want to get something like this but a little bit cheaper, check the sales for the older versions of these shoes, because I still run in the older versions and I'm completely happy with them. I've not seen any major differences between these and those. I actually prefer the colourways as well from the previous versions. I would say that if your main focus in a pair of shoes is comfort and cushioning, the Glycerin 19 is probably the one to go for, because it's just a fantastic plush ride, but it also feels really stable as well. This is my go-to shoe if I just want to go out there and just want peace of mind that I'm going to have a nice, comfortable ride, but I'm not going to go fast. I very rarely try to go fast in this shoe, and in my rotation, and both of these fit into my rotation actually. In my rotation, this firmly fits in that sort of recovery run, long distance training run, maybe up to about half marathon distance, and it's just reliable, great shoe for that. The Fresh Foam 1080 V11, as I've said, it's a bit more versatile. It still sits in my rotation, but I would probably use this for those runs where I go out the house and I don't know what's going to happen. And that does happen a lot. So I might go out for a run and think, well, I might go out for a 15k. It might turn into a 22k or something like that. And I want a shoe that I can pick up the pace in, I can go a bit faster. If I'm feeling great on the day, I could probably do tempo training in this if I wanted to. It wouldn't be my chosen shoe for it, but you could do it. So it's just that versatile shoe that you leave the house in and you pretty much can do anything. With this, I think you're pretty limited in terms of the speed that you can do. I also think that if you want stability over anything else, then this is the shoe to go for, the Glycerin 19, whereas although there's no major issues with stability in the 1080 V11, you're just going to get a bit more in the Glycerin 19. Other than that, I think they're both great shoes. As I've said, I can't fault them in any way, but I think it all comes down to that sort of type of run you're going for. And if you want comfort, go for this one. If you want versatility, go for the Fresh Foam 1080 V11. So that's it from me. Thanks a lot for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe and click that little bell icon, and check out the channel for all the other videos we've got, from the latest road and trail shoes to all the new watches and headphones that you can use to make your running just slightly more enjoyable. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you soon.